CEO of Rutledge.com, the creator of the Rutledge Perspective podcast, and now I am the host of the Rutledge Perspective on XOXox TV, The Boost, and I am so excited. My background in human resources and also in business and consulting has given me the opportunity to share information with all of you, and what we're going to do is talk about the foundational pieces, whether or not you're building a business or you're building a career. It all comes down to strategy and people. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know who needs to be on your team? So please join in the conversation, catch the show both on the radio, on the app, and also on Facebook. And I will be on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you there.
Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's always a good day when it's Tuesday. And I'm here in the studio with Ms. Jerry P. Beasley. And today we're going to be talking about reflection and celebration as we start these last 31 days of 2020. Thank you, Jesus. The last 31 days of 2020. So we're going to talk about reflection and celebration today. But before we do that, dang, I forgot my vote pen again, Jerry.
Oh.
Remember, Georgia, there is a runoff election coming. So good morning, Odessa. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Carlsbad, California. There is a runoff election. The deadline for registering is December 7th. So that's coming up. Monday, December 7th. That's the last day to register. So if you're going to be 18 in time for the election, you can register to vote and vote in this runoff election in Georgia. So please do that. Please, please, please do that. And then I believe the election itself is on, let me find my little sheet here. The election itself is on January 5th, but early voting starts on the 14th. In-person early voting, the 14th of December. So register by Monday. Early voting starts the 14th of December, and then election day is on January 5th. Those are the 2 Senate seats in Georgia that are up for, it's a runoff election. So please, please do that. And I know my hometown, Odessa, there also is a runoff election for, I think, the open seat, the at-large seat, I think. And I think there may be a mayoral one, too. So no matter where you are, yes, we went through the big old election on November 3rd, but pay attention. If you have runoff elections where you are, your job is not over. You need to vote. Get out and vote. Get registered. Get out and vote. So if there's a runoff election, please make sure you're registered for that. Second, today is Giving Tuesday. Hashtag Giving Tuesday. A day where people make a concerted effort to give to nonprofits, and especially here towards the end of the year. And it's 2020. It's been a tough year for many, many nonprofits, not to mention for-profit businesses, but especially nonprofits as well, who rely on donations to be able to serve their communities. So if you have an ability to give back, please do that. Giving Tuesday. In many cases, your gift is being supplemented. I believe I saw on Facebook that Facebook is actually going to be matching donations up to $7 million, I think it is. So if there's a way you can find matching gifts, that's even better, because then you double your dollars. So Giving Tuesday, find somewhere to give if at all possible, if you can. Also, that leads me to the thing that I keep forgetting to post for y'all, but I intend to do that today, is this gratitude system that I was telling you about, especially for small businesses, where it's an opportunity for you to not only say thank you to the people that do business with you by enabling them to actually get a little bit back of what they have paid you for their services or your products or whatever, but also it's a way to enable people to give back to nonprofits as well through this system. It's almost like a rebate, like a Rakuten or something, but the difference is it's not multi-level marketing. 2, you're actually giving cash back and not just discounts on the next thing. And 3, there is an actual process where nonprofits actually get to benefit as well. So I'll be posting that information in small businesses, especially in Houston, or even in California, because I know some people in California. If you are a small business in Houston or a small business in California and you're interested, I will have a link. And that link will enable you to get to a letter of intent that you want to sign up, and you will talk to the people, Steph Gross and his team, that will be able to get you more information on how to sign up. But if we can get a number of businesses signed up for that, number one, we spread it. We create that share economy. Every time people buy something, they get something back. and nonprofits benefit. So it's a beautiful thing. So Houston business owners, small business owners, start looking for that. I will be sending that out. And some of you that I know and I have your emails and stuff, I'll be sending it to you so that you'll be aware of it. Okay. Also, I am updating my website. I'm so excited about it. So most of the updates are done now. So if you go out there, it'll look a little bit different. But I am updating my website, and you will start seeing some posts as well. So we're at 3,100 downloads now, trying to get to 5,000 in the next 31 days, y'all. So please like, share, subscribe, download. That's the podcast, the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. You can find it on any platform, including Amazon Music, where they have podcasts. So I'd really appreciate the sharing. I'd also appreciate you guys doing a review and comments on what you'd like to hear me talk about, because I really do take that and use that as information for some of the topics. So I'd love to get your input. And then I think finally, we'll move into reflection and celebration. So I thought about this. I was just talking to Jerry this morning, and you know, this time of year can be crazy anyway. So for me, it tends to be pretty crazy because the holidays have always been a little nuts anyway, but it tends to be really crazy for me because in my family, the holidays have just been a little tragic. And so this is not a woe is me, it's just facts. So my paternal grandmother passed away on Valentine's Day. My maternal grandmother passed away over Thanksgiving. And then I lost my dad on New Year's Eve. So this time of year can be really dark anyway in the holidays. Plus I tend to be fairly introverted, and you just never know. Well, this year, 2020, has just been crazy. And then you get to the end of the year. And as I started thinking about, okay, what are we had a month of power. And we ended that month of power in November talking about the power of gratitude. Because no matter what's happening, there's always something to be grateful for, always something to be thankful for. And so as I thought about, well, what am I going to talk about for December? I normally in December talk about things like resting, rejuvenating, getting yourself prepared for the next year. And all of that is really important, and we do need to do that. But this year, it felt like, you know what? This is a really good time for us to do some significant reflection and some celebration. Because just like with gratitude, that there's always something to be thankful for, there's always something to celebrate. There's always something to celebrate. And for those of us who have lost people to this pandemic or other, because there are people who have passed away this year that had nothing to do with the pandemic. Many in the pandemic. It just happens to be the thing that is so heavy for all of us right now. But even when I think about the people that I've lost, there is a celebration of the time that we had with them. There is the pain in their loss. There is the pain in missing them, the pain in them not being physically present with us anymore. And then there's the celebration of the fact that we got to spend time with them here in this physical realm, that we got to have them as a part of who we are, that we got to experience their light. And so there's celebration in that. And that's one of the reasons why in some cultures, they don't necessarily call them funerals or wakes or anything. They call them celebrations of life, because they want it to be about how do we celebrate this person, honor this person for what they did while they were here. Now, the other side of that is, we should be giving people their flowers while they're here, right? There's a saying in that. I always get the saying wrong, but you want to do that. So I want to acknowledge that this has been a tough year, and there are many people who have lost many people. And it's been tragic, and anywhere from children to elderly. And so those who have lost, and one thing we don't need to hear is, well, they had underlying conditions. They may or may not have had underlying conditions. However, the fact that they are gone in this pandemic is the thing. So we want to find a way to celebrate the lives and the love of those people that have entered our lives, because that's really important. None of us gets through this life alone. None of us gets through this life alone. And so by having those people around us that can lift us up, support us, that we can lift up, that we can serve, that we can connect with, that we can laugh with, that we can cry with.
One quick second.
Yes.
Were you talking about a nonprofit? Somebody's asking for information on that. You're saying it's helping with nonprofits, right? Yes.
So the Tiger system, it is called, I always get the name wrong, so I always print it out so I can remember. It is called the the Gratitude Rewards Solution, Tigers for short, the Gratitude Rewards Solution. And what it is it's like a rewards program. It's a thank you program. I don't like to call it a loyalty program, but it kind of works like that Rakuten or something, where if you buy something, you get something back. But the power in this one is that not only do the people who purchase from you get something back for their purchase, that you as the business owner get to decide what that looks like, but also part of the return is a return to a nonprofit. So you get to designate which nonprofit also gets some of the money from the sale. So if you don't have your own nonprofit, or if you are a small business and you haven't decided, how you're going to do it or where you're going to get to, this is a great opportunity to do something where you can do automatic gives to a nonprofit that you care about. So I'll be posting that on my site. So go to, on Facebook, it's the Rutledge Perspective is the business page. And I'll also post it on the resource page. So it'll be out there for you guys to see. And I'll try to post it on Instagram as well and on my LinkedIn. So it's a really great program. It is, it's all with QR codes, or you can get some cards if you want to. All the money is held in a bank. It's not held by individuals. I mean, they've really got it on lock with all of the analytics that they can get to you. I mean, it's just a really, really nice program. And the people who are doing it are masterful, and they're all about a share economy. That's why that's how they talk about it. This is about a share economy. How can we continue to share our gifts, even monetarily sometimes? And how can we facilitate that process for people? So they're really good people. So I will put that out there for you guys. And if you want to see some more, you can go to iSwirlRewards.com, which is one of the places you can find some more information, or on Facebook, iSwirl Technologies, TIGRS USA. So I'll put this all on my Facebook page so you guys can get it. So thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. Because nonprofits really need our help. So
Minister Larry Scott.
Oh, thank you, Minister Scott. So I'll be getting that out there so you guys can know more about it. So as we reflect, on this year, and as I was thinking about coming in here, and I told Jerry, I said, right now my mind is really messy. And we just talk about everything on this show, y'all. I don't come in here with any kind of fake nothing. You get all of me when I come in here. So my mind's been really messy. And I told Jerry, I said, I'm not sure why it's been really messy. And so when my mind's really messy, I have to get still. And I have to get still because I can think my way into or out of anything. And that's the power of therapy too, right? Because my therapist is like, well, that's great, but you need to know what you're feeling. You need to understand what you're feeling, because if you address the feelings, then you can understand how you need to manage those going forward. So I get really still so I can honor what I'm feeling and understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling it. And as I came out of that, I thought, with everything that's happened this year, it's really important to do some reflection and to do some celebration. So on a corporate side, like from a business side, one of the things I talk about all the time, and many HR people talk about, is we need to celebrate successes. And good leaders talk about celebrating successes. Because we always go back and do the post-mortem. What went wrong? What could we have done different? All that, and that's important. That's important for learning. However, if the only thing you do is go back and look at what could have been done better or what went wrong, you never give people the opportunity to celebrate the things that went right. And something always is there to celebrate. And so now that we can't really have the big corporate parties, which I got to be honest, I wouldn't be upset about that. If I was in a big business, I'm not the big on the corporate parties anyway. But now that companies can't have these big corporate parties, and you can't have these big events and the big New Year's parties and all that, or shouldn't have these super spreader events, we can still celebrate success. We can still celebrate achievement. We can still figure out how to say, you know what? We did that. We made that happen. We made that happen. We made it to December. We made it to December. There has been a lot to celebrate this year, as crazy as it has been. And sometimes when I talk about that reflection, you have to dig deep to understand where the celebration is. So for example, in business, you're going to celebrate that you got a new client, or you're going to celebrate that the project went well, or you're going to celebrate that you were able to hire more people, or that you didn't have to, shut something down. You're going to celebrate those kind of things. You're going to celebrate as a small business if you had a small restaurant and you were able to go to delivery and you actually were able to get people to eat at your restaurant that have never eaten there before, because now you would deliver and they were at a different spot in town and had never stopped by the restaurant. That's a thing to celebrate. If you were able to go out and start supporting small businesses, that's something to celebrate. If you're looking at how you're going to celebrate in a company, it's an opportunity to get creative. People have gotten so innovative through this process and so creative through all this craziness because we didn't have a choice. Necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention, and we're seeing that. There's a reason that so many millionaires were made during the Great Depression. There's a reason that people tend to thrive in really bad times, is because it really shores up and promotes and pushes innovation and creativity. Because we don't have any choice. I mean, well, you always have a choice. But those who really are digging in and are not good at just sitting still are going to find ways to do something different. So if you're trying to figure out how to celebrate with your people, I've heard some really creative things. I have heard people delivering meals to their entire teams, and then they get on a Zoom call or Microsoft Teams or Google Meets or whatever, and they all eat together. I've heard people delivering similar to a HelloFresh, but delivering that or delivering a grocery list to people, having people buy everything, and then they do a cooking class together virtually. I've heard of people doing hey, we're going to learn how to make this cocktail virtually. So there's lots of ways for you to still engage with people and to celebrate and to hang out, just not in person. It's still possible. It just means you got to get creative. And think about this. That money that you were going to spend renting a venue, having an open bar, which, by the way, corporations, I talk about that in one of my HR tips, just because there's alcohol, it's still a corporate party. And just because, it's an open bar, you are still responsible for anybody who is overserved. So that's why people do drink tickets now. So just FYI. So you really need to dig deeper and think differently about, if I don't have to spend all that money now on a place, on that specific food, on that caterer, on all of those things that come with a venue, how can I use those same dollars and do something really creative with people? Maybe what I do, instead of us saying, hey, we're having a Christmas party, or we're having a holiday party, or a Hanukkah party, or whatever you're doing in your business, we are going to give every single employee a gift certificate to DoorDash or the restaurant of their choice, or an American Express card. And yes, I know there's all the IRS stuff around giving gifts, and you have to charge if it's over $25 and take taxes out and all that kind of stuff. But you would have spent the money anyway. So how about you gross it up? And yes, you can do that, businesses. How about you gross it up so that even when you take taxes out, they still get the amount of money you wanted them to have in the first place? It's a thought. All things are possible if we just think through it. So thinking about celebrating differently, it's about celebrating the success. It's about celebrating the fact that people are still with you and still working with you. It's about celebrating the fact that we are here. It's about celebrating the fact that we still have opportunities. It's about celebrating the fact that we still have the ability to connect. It just may look a little bit different, but it's still there if we decide to do it.
Can I say, Paris
Yes.
Raven said, that's right, my jewelry business has grown because of the need to push through during difficult times.
Yes.
And that's a good thing, because I was thinking about that too, that I really got busy working on some product that before I probably would have taken my time and let it linger. And now I'm thinking, no, you got to get busy and work on this and push this out. And she just said that. So do you think difficult times really will
Absolutely.
make you think?
They'll make you think you have to get on it. And that's where you have to really know yourself too, and really reflect on who you are and how you operate. Because the other side of that coin is, it can get so heavy and there's so many things you need to do, you can put yourself in paralysis. Those of us type A people are really good at that. There's so much stuff on the list. There's so many things we want to do. We don't know where to start first, and we end up just sitting and watching Spencer for Hire, which is now on video on Prime, by the way. Amazon Prime, Spencer for Hire, seasons 1 through 3. I love Spencer for Hire. Sidebar, I know. What can I say? I watch old TV, y'all. So we want to make sure, in these times when we're reflecting and we're celebrating, that reflection is about what we're doing and why. It's getting still and understanding what's going on. And so understanding this jewelry business that grew because you had to get busy. You had to figure out what you were going to do. Times are different. We cannot operate the same way as we always did. And we most likely will never be able to operate the same way that we did. There's going to be change that is permanent. We don't know what that is yet. There's no way to know, which is part of the challenge for type A people too, because we want to know. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to know what the outcome's going to be. And that's just not possible.
You know, you said something when you said that because of the vaccine that is coming. People are like, okay, I'll just wait till I get the vaccine. But that's even going to take a little bit, even though they're saying by the end of this month. Then they're saying they don't know if you're going to probably still need to wear the mask. And so should we be planning major events? Well,
you know, so this is my opinion, is that there's still a lot we don't know.
Yeah.
There's still a lot we don't know. Yes, there is a vaccine that is supposed to come out. Yes, the studies that have been conducted so far indicate that the vaccine is effective, at least 95% effective. What we don't know is long-term effects of the vaccine. What we don't know is what all the side effects are of the vaccine. What we don't know is how it really does help with the immune system and how long it takes to become effective before people can really start hanging out with each other. So there's still a lot that's unknown. So for me personally, it is still a time to exercise some caution. Because we also know with testing that we've had people who would test a day and they'd be negative, and they test again a week later and they'd be positive, so they couldn't possibly have been negative that week before. Because it takes a certain amount of days for the symptoms to actually show up. So you've been infected before your symptoms show up in some cases. So, you know, yes, we're talking about science, but science is not always exact either. So I say you need to exercise caution. And especially if you have people in your life who are compromised, or you yourself are compromised, it is my perspective. Did y'all catch that? My perspective.
Oh, that was good. Lord.
That you exercise caution and exercise good judgment going forward.
I was sitting in the Firestone Sunday to get a battery check, and while I was sitting there, I had my mask on, and I wanted to see how long I could just actually sit there with the mask on, and then I was thinking, okay, this is uncomfortable. Let me get outside for a few minutes. And then that made me think, don't plan a trip just right now, because you may not be able to do the plane ride.
Right.
And these are things we may have to work out in our heads.
Yes.
Depending on where COVID is going.
Right. Now, I have a really good friend who wants to get out of town so bad, and she's like, I can't be on a plane in a mask that long.
Yeah.
And here's my thing about that. I am so okay with that. You got to know you.
You got to know you.
And that just means you probably can't fly right now, because planes, you know, airlines are serious. You got to have a mask on for the duration of the flight. And all the studies have shown that it really is helping to stop the spread on planes. Now, once you get out of the plane and in the airport, it's a whole different deal. But in the plane itself, they've done enough testing that really demonstrates that the use of the mask and all that kind of stuff is really helping to keep you fairly safe on a plane. Surprisingly, I don't worry as much about plane travel right now as I do about going to the grocery store. But that could be just me. Because I know everybody on a plane has got a mask on, and I know they've cleaned it. I don't know what they're doing at the grocery store. They're cleaning the carts, but how often are they washing their hands before they put the stuff on the shelves? And all those people I'm walking around with, have they just been hanging out, or have they been careful? You just don't know. I'm just saying.
So you curbside?
I don't curbside because, see, I don't want people touching my food.
Oh, my God.
I want to pick my own tomatoes, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, as we talk about this reflection, I really want you to dig deep in the reflection, because sometimes it is really hard, especially when it's dark, to think about things to celebrate. It's very hard, especially when we've had a hard year like this. Not only is it hard to find something to celebrate, but there can be a lot of guilt and a lot of shame around being in a celebratory spirit when so many people are suffering. That how dare we be happy? How dare we be joyful? How dare we find something positive when so many people are suffering? And while that sentiment is real, we are supposed to be joyful. We are supposed to rejoice in what we have. And we are supposed to use everything we have to give gifts and to serve others. And there's joy in service. And so if you're thinking about celebration only as a big party or something like that, that's not it. My good friend Miriam, I'm going to interview her again for a podcast for December. We're doing a special podcast. I think you guys are going to love it because it's all about music and use of the voice, which I really need right now because all this talking has made my voice really weird. But she's doing something special, and I think she's going to launch it soon, so I don't want to get too far ahead of it. But one of the things she's talking about is music and how music impacts not only our lives, but how we feel and our moods and the meaning of some of the songs that come at us for Christmas. So it's going to be beautiful, and so hopefully she's going to launch it, and I'll talk about it on this show here too. But it's important to understand that celebration doesn't have to be big and flashy. Celebration can simply be an extension of gratitude. It can simply be that next step for saying, oh my gosh, we really did, we're on the other side. Or, yes, I contracted COVID, but I made it. Or, I want to celebrate all of these nurses and doctors and respiratory techs and orderlies and everyone else in the healthcare system who are holding it down every day. I want to celebrate them. I want to celebrate my clients because they are continuing to spend money. I want to celebrate my vendors, the people who are supplying me with the stuff I need to continue with my jewelry business because they're still making it happen so I can make it happen, right? The entire supply chain. So celebration doesn't have to be big and flashy and sparkly, although we love sparkle. But it doesn't have to be that way. So when we think about celebration, we often think it's got to be big. It doesn't. Celebration is simply looking at something to say, that was good. That was good. And we should acknowledge that there is some good. Because again, remember I talked about the power of gratitude. There's the same thing with the power of positivity. If all we think about is the stuff that's bad, the stuff that's wrong, the stuff that's ugly, the stuff that's evil, that wires your brain in a certain way. So if you can start thinking about the things that are good, the things that are positive, the things that are happy, the things that are positive forward movement, that also begins to rewire your neurotransmitters. So focusing on those things that we can be celebratory about, that we can be happy about, that we can be joyful about, is really important for not only our spirit, but also for our mind, physically for our mind, to really rewire what we're thinking.
We got some different people. I want to ask this question because you brought up earlier about a therapist, that you see a therapist. And most times in the black culture, we always thought, no, don't take that.
You just need Jesus, baby.
Yeah,
you don't need a therapist.
Just go to church or your counselor. But what is therapy for somebody who may be considering to get therapy?
Right. So one, first and foremost, because again, on the Rutledge perspective, we speak truth to power and we just speak the truth and we're just authentic. I've had my therapist for 10 years. And it is my perspective, again, that you do not need to suffer in silence. Mental illness is a big deal. There are so many people who are suffering right now. They have had, I think I saw one city that's had like 136% increase in suicide rates just during this pandemic. It is not necessary to suffer in silence. And in fact, I'm going to post this on my website too. There are not only the suicide hotlines, all of those are free, but the American Psychological Association, the APA, and Leela, I know you're on and you're always on your computer. If you can find this, that would be great. And then I'll call it out. There is an 800 number where you can actually get free therapy. You can find therapists for free. If you go to the American Psychological Association, the APA, they also have therapists, and many of them will have sliding scales. So you can find a way where it's nice, because many people shy away because it's expensive, and it can be very expensive, whether you're going to a psychologist or a psychotherapist, and there's a difference. One's an MD and one's a PhD. But the thing about therapy is therapy enables you, different than friends, because you have really good friends that you can talk to about anything. But therapists and therapy is about talking to someone who is specifically trained in the ability to help you manage through situations. And for those of y'all who are like, oh no, I don't know, that's a God-given gift too, y'all. They have an ability to listen, to understand, to process. They have training to help you move through a situation or a time that can be really, really devastating and really difficult to manage. And there is no need to suffer in silence. There's no need to suffer in silence. And so therapy, you know, for me, it really happened. The reason I started doing it is because I realized, and Jerry and I were talking about this earlier, I realized I had really not grieved for years after my dad passed away. For years. And that'll come back and bite you in the butt when you least expect it.
Yep.
And so I just started feeling some type of way, and I thought, this is not normal. And I had enough people around me that were like, this is not normal. And we're worried and we're concerned because you're not you. And and we're hearing things from you that are not what we normally hear. And you're not yourself. And so I had enough people say that, enough people around me. And I was feeling weird enough and bad enough and saying things to myself or thinking things or feeling things. I thought, no, this is not good. This is not good. Let me go find somebody who can help me figure out why it's not good. Okay, you can go to the apa.org. Topic is COVID-19 local mental health. And so I'll post this. Thank you, Leela. I'll also post that. It's in the comments on my website, but I'll post it on my page as well. And Jerry, I'll send it to you. It's www.apa.org. That's American Psychological Association. APA.org/topics/local-mental-health. And that'll get you to a place where you can find some mental health services in your city. The Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Call somebody. If you see someone or you hear someone and you are concerned, do a wellness check. Part of reflection and part of celebration is being open and being still and listening. Listening to people that you love, listening to people that you're connected to. And if you're hearing something different, if you're feeling something different, say something. If you see something, hear something, say something.
You know, when you come in on Tuesdays, our little therapy together is, how are you feeling? Well, what do you
Right.
feel like? I don't know how you feeling.
Right.
Well, I'm feeling like this. And that seems like a therapeutic moment.
Yes.
And some people may not go to a therapist because they don't want to be labeled as crazy. But you said it. It's not the same as talking to a friend sometimes.
It's not.
Because maybe you will talk to a friend. And I was talking to a friend on the way into work today.
Yeah.
And I said, really, to be truthful, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just people are not saying what I kind of need to hear
Right.
in some areas right now. And so that's when we were both in agreement that
Yeah.
you're right, because sometimes you have to talk to somebody that specializes
Yes.
in what you're going through, or else you're going to be more frustrated
Yeah.
talking to the wrong people. And then you and I talked about grief, and I said, well, it changes you whether
It
you want it
does.
to be changed or not.
It does.
I don't believe it changes you for the worse, but most people will get offended if you don't answer the phone. And I've been in the season where I don't feel like talking.
Yeah.
Not that I'm grieving and I'm
Yeah.
so sad that I want to talk, but when you're in tune to something else,
Yes.
then you don't know how to explain that
Right.
to other people. So
Right.
how do you explain
Well,
that when you're different?
Exactly. And one, that's also about grace. You know, when we talk about being reflective, we need to give ourselves grace and we need to give others grace, especially during this time, because people are going through a moment. There are seasons in life, and this is a season for a lot of people. A lot of people have gone through multiple seasons during COVID, right? And so we've got to give ourselves and each other grace. And standing in your own power, if you are not ready to be, you know, on the phone with a bunch of people or on a Zoom call, say no. Say no. However, you need to say no, because you have to put your mask on first. And that's part of that reflection and celebrating you, celebrating your ability to say, you know, right now, in this moment, I need to take care of me. But I think, and to go back to therapy, I think it is really important in communities of color that we do everything we can to remove the stigma from mental health services. It is not weakness to seek assistance. You are not crazy because you're seeking assistance. You are actually probably stronger and more resilient than many because you have the courage to seek assistance. And your friends and your family are fantastic, and they love you, and you'll have people in your village who will speak the truth to you and all of that. And it is also a very fine line before you become before your stuff becomes too much for someone else who loves you. Right? And I don't want to say it's a burden, because if someone loves you, you're not a burden, and your issues are not a burden. So I know that word is a very powerful word. Words have power. Burden is a very powerful word and has a very ugly stigma attached to it. Those who love you will not consider you a burden and won't consider your stuff a burden. However, it is important that you also honor the relationship that you have with the people that you love and who love you. And part of honoring that relationship and being reflective about who you are and where you are is understanding when it's time to seek that professional assistance and to give other people peace. And for you to address and deal with whatever is not feeling right to you with someone who is professionally trained to help you do that. Because they are trained. There are so many different modalities. And here's the other thing about therapy. Don't go to someone, have a bad experience, and decide therapy's bad. Find someone who works for you. There are a number of therapists, just like there are a number of doctors. Not every doctor works for you. So just like you would not keep going to a doctor who you don't feel is treating you the way you need to be treated or is listening to you, it's the same thing with a therapist. There are many, many. Find the one that works for you. But I highly encourage seeking help from a therapist or a counselor when you need it. It doesn't have to be, a PhD or MD. There are many, many folks who are licensed counselors, licensed professional counselors. Many of them came out of social work. Find those who, especially if your children need some help, get your kids some help, y'all. And there are people who specialize in child psychology. There are people who specialize in childhood trauma. We all have some kind of trauma. We all have some kind of trauma. The idea is, how do we deal with that trauma and how does it manifest as we get older? So when you start reflecting on 2020 and what you can celebrate in 2020, because there is stuff to celebrate, also start thinking about and reflecting on, where am I? What have I accomplished this year? Where am I this year? And where do I want to be? And how can I spend some time reflecting on where I am and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it to understand what may or may not need to change? Who I need in my village, who I might need to exile from the village, because there's some of that too. There are seasons of reaping and seasons of sowing. And sometimes, just like you got to manage your garden and pluck the weeds, sometimes you got to pluck weeds out of your village too.
And a friend of mine, Sherry, just said, this is great information. I located a great therapist in my area, which is in the St. Louis area. Mm-hmm. But when you said that for people that love you, you're not a burden, can we be truthful, though, that in this season of 2020, almost everybody has gone through something traumatic?
Yes.
And so would it not be kind, maybe not to overburden, we don't want to burden, but if we're just pouring our problems on somebody else and they're being kind and taking as much as they can, we have to kind of know when that's too much for somebody else to take on too. And is it kind to say, listen, I'm not really experienced in that area. Right. I really want to direct you to somebody who could, because at this time, I'm going through myself.
Exactly.
Is that wrong?
So no. I think and what's important is, again, in that reflection, you've got to be really honest with yourself about what you're doing and what you're saying and how much you are using your friends and how you're using them. How much and how. And use is probably not the right word, but how much you are relying on them, right? How much you are leaning on them. Because again, we all have seasons, and some of us have seasons where we need more support than others. Good morning, Monica. Some of us have seasons where we need more support than others. And those in our village understand that and are ready to rally around. And there are times, and we all have these people in our lives. Generally, they're not truly our close villagers. They're generally on the fringe. But those people who really, who we care about and who are important to us, but who really do drain us. They just drain us of our energy. We love them, but they drain us of our energy. In those situations, it is absolutely not unkind to be clear. I understand it really seems like, we've been talking the last month, and every time we talk, there's this, and this. I really think you could use some support from a professional. And that's not unkind.
It's not.
Because here's the thing, if you're feeling that, then there's probably some truth to that. And the big thing is you want the person to be better. You're not just trying to get them to stop talking to you. You're trying to get them to stop. Well, maybe. Right? You may be trying to get them to stop talking to you. But you're really trying to get them to get at the root of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because if you care about them, the fact that they've got this thing that keeps coming up over and over and over and over, and they don't seem to be addressing it, is starting to hurt them and create pain. And you don't want them to be in pain. Even those people that are on the fringes of your village. The people that are in your village, you are much more likely early on to say, look, you need to go talk to somebody. Because this is serious and I'm concerned. You are much more likely to be much more blunt with people who are in your village. And so when you're reflecting on this year, not only reflect on where you have been able to support someone else who really needed the support, because it's crazy this year. This year has been really nuts. Where have you been able to help someone else who has needed a sounding board? And there's nothing wrong with being a sounding board. We all need a sounding board. When that sounding board crosses over into counselor, therapist, heavy support system,
or trash can,
or that's a good one, or a trash can, that's different. And depending on the position of that person in your life, your response to that is different. If that's your village, you continue to support and you promote additional assistance. If it's somebody on the fringes, you support from afar and you encourage additional support from a professional. So it depends on the relationship as well. But that reflection, especially personal reflection, is important to have the courage and the self-love to be able to sit still and say something doesn't feel right, and I'm going to sit here until I figure out what that is. And if I can't figure out what it is, I'm going to ask someone. And if they don't know, then I'm going to find a professional. And even if the person that I'm close to knows, I'm still probably going to find a professional. So reflection is not just about the post-mortem of the stuff that happened. This project didn't sell. This webinar didn't go well. This product sold really good. It's not just about that stuff, although that stuff is important. Reflection is also about that personal. During this period of time, I really found myself not able to connect as much as I normally do. I found myself not showing up the way I normally show up. I found that I was so much more joyful because I was being able to spend time alone. I found that I was so creative because I didn't have a choice. Everything shut down, so I had to focus on my business, and I've never given myself a chance to do that. Reflection is deep and wide. Reflection is deep and wide. It is asking that next question. It is continuing to say why. Why am I feeling this way? Okay, why is that? Why? 5 whys, right? Root cause. Reflection is about really getting to the deep understanding of why something feels the way it feels. And when you understand why it feels the way it feels, then it's easier to understand the outcomes or the impacts or the actions that need to be taken next time to either continue that feeling or to prevent that feeling. But until you know what that feeling is and what initially caused the feeling or what drives the potential to have that feeling, you're not going to be able to do anything different, either to continue it or to eliminate it. And many of us just go through life, we just kind of go, and whatever happens, happens. And bless the heart, those people that are just like that, and they generally tend to be very happy. Nothing worries them. They are not bothered.
And therapy is different for other people because maybe for me, therapy is I bought a bike.
Right.
Out, or working in my yard.
Yes.
And then there'll be people calling, well, you're not doing that. Well, I am doing something.
Yes.
This is my therapy. This
Yes.
is the way I process. This is the way I hear from God.
Exactly.
This is the way I get my mind so unscattered.
Yes.
And let me ask this question. Is it wrong not to feel the false obligation? Let's say somebody has been a help to you in a season, but now it's your season. You're trying to get your focus back. You're trying to recreate, and you're trying to do the things that you've been placed on this earth to do. And now people are needing from you. Is it okay to say, I'm not able to give you 100% right now because I'm working on me?
Right. I think, again, we have to put our mask on first, because the other side of that question is, or the other side of that statement is, yes, I could do this for the person now, but I'm not going to be able to do it at 100%.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be so resentful of doing it right now that it's not going to be the quality that I normally would do. Because right now there's some other things that are really critical to me.
Could we be doing stuff resentfully?
Absolutely.
Yes? Oh, wow.
Absolutely. Many times we do things and we resent the fact that we have to do them.
Why do we do them? Out of obligation?
Out of obligation. Out of habit. Even if it's not obligation, we do it out of habit. Somebody calls, they need something, you say yes. Somebody calls, they need some help, you say yes. Somebody calls, they want something, you say yes. We get in the habit of saying yes. And don't get me wrong, saying yes is good. Sometimes you just need to pause before you say yes. And I'm not talking about just, oh yeah, I'll go to that party and then just not show up because see, that would be me. Something come up, I can't go, right? I'm talking about the things that really take your energy, take your time, take your focus. You want your yes to mean yes. Because if your yes means yes, then your no means no. And so if you are doing something out of pure obligation and then you resent it, that wasn't a real yes. That wasn't a real yes. Good morning, Kentucky. That was a no manifesting as a yes, impersonating a yes. Because what you really meant was, I don't want to. I'm not into it. I don't have the energy. I don't have the desire. I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna because I feel bad or I feel like I have to.
And that's a part of the change that we were talking about earlier of the pandemic, because it used to be very hard for me to say no, especially if I felt obligated because you did this or that for me.
Right.
Then I felt that I had to respond back. But now in the change, I'm learning that you don't have to respond back if that's not what you want to do, because if you do it and you do it begrudgingly, like the Bible says, you've gotten your reward. You get nothing from it if I'm going to be begrudging about doing it. So I think a lot of people have a hard time saying no, but I'm hearing more people saying in this season, they're really focusing on their projects and themselves. I was telling somebody the other day, at Alcoholics Anonymous, they say that one of their things is they say it's a selfish program. You need to spend the first year working on you. And I don't think we get that, but it's important.
Exactly. Good morning, Dallas. My cousin is on. Morning, cuz. But here's the thing about that, though, that people don't always process deeply, is that if you do something, if you are spending time on yourself, if you are putting your mask on first, it gives you the energy, it gives you the focus, it gives you the drive to be able to serve others from a full cup. You can't serve from empty. You can't serve from empty. And so, yes, you want to be in reciprocal relationships. We talked about that, right? Networking is reciprocal. It's not all about one way. It is reciprocal. And so your relationships, when people have given you things and worked with you and helped you and really being understanding and supportive when you need them, you want to reciprocate that. And there are times when that's not possible. And what happens, unfortunately, is that sometimes that is seen by the person who needs us as a failure to reciprocate, as opposed to a challenge in timing. And now I'm not saying there are some times when we just suck it up and we just make it happen because it's a dire need and we just got to get over ourselves and make it happen, right? There are times like that. But just in general, you have to be sure that you have the energy and drive and focus to be able to do whatever it is you're being asked to do. Because if not, you're not going to be able to serve in a way that is reflective of who you are.
You said something key, the judgment of timing, because let's say the judgment of timing doesn't mean the person doesn't want to help you or be there for you, but you have to discern the timing, and I call it spiritual integrity, and say, wait a minute, they've gone through a hard year. I've seen them go through this. I've seen them. Is this now time for me to put in my card and say, you should do this because I did this for you? The timing could be just off.
The timing could be off.
Yeah.
And because we are often, it's very interesting to me as I look at people, and this is why I really, human behavior is just fascinating to me. on the one hand, we are social beings, right? We are communal beings. That's how we live. And yet, at some level, we are highly self-focused beings. And so, when we want something, highly self-focused. And yet, our ability to actually spend time on ourselves is seen as selfish. It's a really weird kind of disconnect, right? We want to take care of ourselves. We want to feel happy. We want to feel healthy. We want to do all of those things, and we want to spend time with our family, and we want to give to them, and we want to do all of these things. And we feel like we're obligated to make sure that we are doing everything for everybody else. That's societal pressure. We're obligated to say yes to things. And then somebody says, yeah, but you got to take care of you. And then we feel guilty because if we're taking care of me, some things are mutually exclusive. I can't go have a massage and answer your phone call at the same time.
Come on.
I can't, homeschool my kids and take my class at the same time. There are some things that are mutually exclusive. You can't do them. And so what happens is our self-care ends up falling to the last of the list, and then we get resentful because we're tired. And we might not even know that we're tired because we haven't been able to take care of ourselves. And I always go back to this. It's like there's a reason they say on the airplane, put your mask on first, and then help someone else. Because if you don't help you, you won't be alive to help somebody else. You've got to be able to breathe so that you can help someone else breathe.
Yeah.
And so that focus, you're right, because everybody's now trying to figure out how to focus on self-care so that we can serve other people. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Well, you can, just not for long. And it won't be your normal quality. Because there are people we know who run themselves down serving other people. And so here's the thing. And this is probably going to be controversial. When you are running yourself ragged, serving other people, you're in every committee, you're with every nonprofit, you're at every event, you're running everybody's kids everywhere, you're doing all of this kind of stuff. My question to you is, one, why? Are you truly doing that out of service? Or are you doing that because you want everybody to be able to say, well, I can always count on her. If you ever need anything, this is the person. Your name is at the top of the list, for the next community award. Why are you running yourself ragged?
Well, you said, thank you, Michelle Johnson said, this is so true. I really needed this. Sherry Dove says, my therapist happens to not be free of charge, but is well worth the insight I have received so far. After experiencing the death of 5 loved ones, it seems like a short span of time. And so therapy is definitely needed. And as Michelle Johnson is saying, she truly needed to hear what you just said. Yeah. And there are people, and she and I, Sherry, was just talking this morning, there are people, we have different personalities and different makeups.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes I was saying to Sherry, said, you're a birthday person. You know everybody's birthday, you remember. Yeah. I'm not so much. I don't remember a lot of stuff about people's birthdays or whatever. Don't mean I love you nonetheless.
Right.
That's just not the way we operate. She wouldn't get insulted if I missed her birthday because she said, Jerry, just don't do that.
Right.
And she does other stuff.
Right.
So when you said that, there are people that I know who will say, I can do this for you. I can do that for you. Yeah. And I've had people who say, I like being around you because you make me laugh. And I took it as a badge of honor. But when I left them, I was feeling so drained and tired. To now, that's not a badge of honor. Because you had to be on. Because that energy is not matching. Yeah. And it has to be reciprocal. Yes. Or else you will be drained. You will be drained for the party for somebody else. You will be drained, and you have to honor yourself and honor your energy. Yeah. Yeah, Sue, I know that was a lesson because and nothing about being active and always being willing to say yes. I'm not saying any of that is you need to just stop it. You need to just say no to everything. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is part of reflection is asking yourself why you're doing what you're doing. What is the benefit to yourself, but what is the benefit to others? Because if you are running yourself so ragged, are you really serving? Or do you just think you're serving because you showed up? People saw your face. But are you really able to give? Is your temper getting short? Are you getting sick? Are you running yourself ragged so that
Yeah, you're good and you're out there and you're everywhere for about a month, and then you're down for 2 because you just wore yourself out. So it's just reflection when you look back at this year, finding those things to celebrate and be excited about and be thankful for. And finding those things that in this time, in this season where we all had to slow down, everybody had to slow down. What did you learn? What did you learn? What did you find out? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about other people? What did you feel? What did you find? Did you find some skill you didn't even know you had? Were you able to pick back up music or languages or art or something else that had been dormant for so long? Were you able to get all those books read that have been sitting on your shelf? Full confession, I got bookshelves full of books because I got a book issue. Many of them I haven't even cracked the cover, but I had to have the book. They will get read because that's who I am. But, I got book problems. So that's why I do Audible now, right? So at least I don't have the book looking at me. But this reflection piece is an opportunity to really dig into who we are and why we are who we are and what we really want and how we want to serve and how we want to show up. Because if you are having, especially with people you love, if you feel yourself having to put a mask on to show up, no. Something's off. Give yourself time to reflect on that. If you're having to show up not as your authentic self, something's wrong. And I don't mean in corporate where you can't bring necessarily your whole self to work. You need to be able to bring your whole self to work, but some things are meant for the backyard barbecue and some things are meant for corporate settings. But if you're having to really tamp down a lot of who you are to be in a certain place or to serve a certain set of people or to do a certain thing, the question in your reflection is, then why do I keep doing that?
Right.
Why do I keep doing it? Is it a mismatch? Because if it's a mismatch, there's nothing wrong with that. Not everything is for everybody. And if it's a mismatch, are you doing it because you love it? Or are you doing it because you feel like you're supposed to? Because that supposed to word can get us in a lot of trouble. That supposed to word can be very, very powerful. That supposed to word can make us do a lot of stuff out of obligation as opposed to love or desire or need.
And having to give a long lengthened story of why. Because now you really can't just say, no, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And leave it at that.
And
you don't
leave
have
it.
to give a long drawn out story about it.
Right.
Michelle says, I was in denial, not going to a therapist when my father passed. I was not myself for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Even my children noticed that I was not myself. That was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what
Yeah, it's really, it's important. And sometimes it is going to cost you. You may not be able to find someone who is free. And I just give that information out there because there are to let you know that there are services that are lower cost or sometimes free if you need them. There are all kinds of apps now. I have not used any of the apps, but there are all kinds of apps for therapy right now. And many therapists, my cousin is actually a therapist who's on today. Many therapists have gone to teletherapy. I do that with my therapist right now because she moved from Houston. She's in Michigan. So I do that with my therapist all the time. And it works just fine. So find someone, find a counselor, find a friend. I mean, if you got to phone a friend, phone a friend. And make sure that friend is also a friend who is going to be willing and able to tell you it's time for you to seek someone with some additional professional skills that I don't have. I am concerned. Right? Because it is not shameful. You are not crazy. It is not bad to want to work on you. It is not bad to feel bad. It's okay. What is that? It's going around everywhere. It's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to not be okay. Not everybody is okay all the time. It's okay to not be okay. What's not okay is to stay not okay because you have a choice. We all have a choice. And you don't have to stay in overwhelm. There are way too many options, guys. There are way too many options. And there are way too many things to be happy about and to celebrate. There are way too many people out there who want us and need us and love us. There's way too much to be thankful for. There's way too much to celebrate, to sit in that quagmire of just mess. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to stay in overwhelm. It's not necessary to feel like you don't deserve help. We all deserve assistance.
Absolutely.
We all deserve assistance. We all deserve the opportunity to be content. I use content intentionally too, because you can't be happy all the time. But if you're generally content, then life is generally good. Because happiness is fleeting. Contentment tends to be much more stable. Because you can still be unhappy, but you're generally content with your life. See what I mean? So, I want to start out this month of December, these last 31 days, and I encourage all of you to really dig into some serious reflection. Give yourself the gift of reflection, stillness, time, to reflect on what you can celebrate, not just what you would do different. That you made it to December 1st. We made it, guys, to celebrate the lives of those people who may no longer be with us, because they were here. And we are upset and sad and angry and mad and all of that kind of stuff that they are no longer with us. We are. We just all are. And their lives were important, their lives were meaningful, and they made an impact while they were here, and we can celebrate that. Even if for a minute. Even if it's between tears. We can celebrate the fact that we got to experience them while they were here. So, reflect, celebrate, remember that you are enough. You are absolutely enough. You have the power to be resilient. You have the power to speak truth to power, even if that person you are speaking truth to is you. That's some of the hardest truth to speak, by the way, is to speak truth to ourselves. Spend some quiet time. Put your mask on first. And make sure that you're celebrating. Because it's that time. It's that time. And we are going to make it.
Us as women.
Yes.
How long have you been here?
It is 9 months. Is that right?
Yeah. No
9
shade
months.
to the men that have been here, but
Yeah.
they all ran with a cocaine. I'm just, I put it out there. Let somebody let me in.
Right.
But we were working without
We've been
a
doing
mask.
it. Yes.
So that's how long you've been here. Then
Yes.
It was like, oh, we got to start wearing masks.
We gotta start wearing
If
masks.
you want to do it, you're more than welcome to.
It's like, I'm in.
And you went
Yep.
in. So
Yeah.
let's celebrate that. That's a strong sisters.
I'm telling you. Yes.
Yeah.
Since March. So it's 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 9 months.
That's worth
9 months. Thank you, guys. I'm celebrating all of you too for being here with me. I know we're a little bit over. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in on Tuesdays, whether it's online, whether it's listening to the replay, watching the replay on my YouTube channel, whatever. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. And know that I believe that you have the power to do whatever you want to do and that you are resilient. You are resilient. Tune in next week. We're going to continue the month of reflection and celebration. See y'all next time.